Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. This is Beyond Wild is One. We are glad you're watching. Time now for Pulse American Joker. Let's begin this broadcast with the headlines. Sources say 27 people, including 2 foreigners, killed in a terror attack in Jammu and Kashmir's Pahalgam. Sources say over 40 people targeted. Anti-terror operation is currently underway. Union Home Minister Amit Shah reaches Srinagar, meets Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha, will hold an urgent security review meeting with all agencies.
मजलूमों का कत्लेआम बंद करो बंद करो मजलूमों का कत्लेआम बंद करो बंद करो.
In a heartfelt show of solidarity and condemnation, residents of Srinagar hold candle-lit march in Kashmir, mourn the loss of innocent lives in the terrorist attack on tourists. Ukraine says 1 killed and at least 22 others, including 3 children, injured after a Russian strike on the city of Zaporizhia, accuses Moscow of using guided bombs to attack the city. Iran says technical nuclear meeting with United States is postponed to Saturday. The meeting will happen on the day of 3rd round of talks. An Israeli delegation holds talks with mediators in Cairo in an effort to seek a breakthrough in negotiations with Hamas over a ceasefire. This as Israel continues to strike Gaza.
Especially excited to formally announce that America and India have officially finalized the terms of reference for the trade negotiation. I think this is a vital step.
U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance announces some good news amid the ongoing tariff war, says U.S. has finalized the outline of a trade agreement with India. Pope Francis's funeral is set for Saturday in St. Peter's Square to be celebrated by the Dean of the College of Cardinals. The public viewing of the deceased spiritual leader will begin on Wednesday.
Maryland parents are taking their fight over elementary school story time all the way to the Supreme Court, raising concerns about books read to students focused on LGBTQ themes, saying they violate their religious beliefs. On Tuesday, the justices will take up one big question. Are public schools violating parents' religious rights by teaching young kids about gender and sexuality without notice or chance to opt out? In Montgomery County, teachers are required to read storybooks that celebrate gender transitions, pride parades, and same-sex relationships. The school board says it's meant to encourage more inclusive thinking. Books like Born Ready, the true story of a boy named Penelope, are part of the reading rotation for teachers. The story suggests that doctors only guess a baby's gender at birth and that children can decide their gender for themselves. In 2023, the Montgomery County School Board reversed its policy requiring parent notification about its inclusivity program, including LGBTQ story times. Before that, students in kindergarten through 5th grade could opt out, but that option was taken away. Court documents express Montgomery Public Schools' reasoning behind the reversal. The growing number of opt-out requests gave rise to three related concerns: high student absenteeism, the infeasibility of administering opt-outs across classrooms and schools, and the risk of exposing students who believe the storybooks represent them and their families to social stigma and isolation. But even some principals push back, calling the books age inappropriate, saying they presented gender ideology as fact, dismissed religious beliefs, and shamed students who disagreed. The lawsuit doesn't try to block the curriculum. It argues that forcing kids to participate goes against their families' faiths and violates their constitutional rights. A lower court dismissed the case, ruling that because no one was forced to change their beliefs, there was no violation. The parents who come from Christian, Muslim, and Jewish backgrounds say this isn't about politics. It's about religious freedom and being left out of a conversation they believe matters to their children's values. This case draws parallels to a landmark Supreme Court decision, Wisconsin versus Yoder. In 1972, Amish families fought to pull their kids out of school after 8th grade, despite a state law requiring attendance until age 16. The Supreme Court sided with the families, ruling that their religious freedom outweighed the state's education requirement. Walgreens agreeing to pay a $300 million settlement Monday. The settlement stemming from a lawsuit filed by the U.S. Department of Justice accusing the pharmacy giant of illegally filling millions of prescriptions for painkillers and other controlled substances. The DOJ says the payout, including 4% interest annually, is set to be paid over 6 years under the agreement. DOJ prosecutors say Walgreens would owe an additional $50 million if the company is sold, transferred, or merged before the fiscal year 2032. A Walgreens spokesperson responded on the pharmacy's behalf, saying, "We strongly disagree with the government's legal theory and admit no liability. Our pharmacists are dedicated healthcare professionals who care deeply about patient safety and continue to play a critical role in providing education and resources to help combat opioid misuse and abuse across our country." The lawsuit filed in January accuses Walgreens of neglecting red flags showing prescriptions were unlawful, but filled them anyway. DOJ attorneys accuse Walgreens of violating the Controlled Substances Act and False Claims Act, which aims to reimburse companies through federal health care programs like Medicare. Walgreens and other drug companies have paid out roughly $50 billion to settle lawsuits and probes in recent years. The lawsuits and investigations accuse Walgreens and others of contributing to the opioid addiction crisis in the U.S. From 1999 to 2022, the CDC estimates nearly 727,000 people died from drug overdoses in the U.S.
The World Food Programme is forced to suspend aid for 650,000 malnourished women and children in Ethiopia due to lack of funding, the United Nations agency said on Tuesday. The organization warned that without new funding, 3.6 million people could lose access to food assistance in Ethiopia in the coming weeks. The Eastern African country is especially vulnerable to food insecurity, with more than 10 million of its people facing hunger and malnutrition. Conflicts in Ethiopia and neighboring countries like Sudan and South Sudan have also forced 1 million people out of their homes. The World Food Programme also alerted about the risk of drought, which could further raise the urgency for humanitarian action. Despite these growing needs, the UN agency has been directly hit by American President Donald Trump's decision to drastically reduce US foreign aid. Other Western countries, including in Europe, have also cut their foreign aid budgets. WFP in Ethiopia said it faces a funding shortfall of $222 million between April and September 2025.
I want to give them all the fentanyl they want.
That's what Lancaster, California Mayor R. Rex Parris said in February on camera when asked about his city's homelessness problem. The comment, made first in a city council meeting, sparked outrage nationwide after Parris repeated it during a Fox 11 interview, and he doubled down.
I wish the president would give us a purge, because we do need to purge these people.
Parris claims he was referring to what he called a criminal element within the homeless population. He accused them of committing robberies, rapes, even murders, but provided no evidence. Lancaster, a city of 175,000 in northern Los Angeles County, has seen a sharp rise in unhoused residents. Last year's homeless count in the Antelope Valley totaled more than 6,600, nearly 2,000 more than the year before. Paris claims Lancaster offers one of the country's most advanced homeless centers, including shelter, mental health, and drug treatment services. But he says some people refuse help.
There is nothing that we can do for these people. Lancaster has the most innovative homeless solutions of any city in America. We're very proud of it. We can take care of a lot of people, but I'm talking about the people that refuse those services, the people that want to camp near your home so that they can burglarize them at night.
His comments sparked a recall effort led by former political rivals, but so far that campaign has not collected enough signatures. The city clerk's office is now suing the organizers, alleging inaccuracies in their petition. Paris has been mayor since 2008. He's known for making headlines, like proposing a trade office in Beijing or trying to ban neckties at City Hall. Despite the backlash, Paris has not backed down, saying he does not regret his words and believes most residents still stand with him.
Remember Tom Cruise in Minority Report? He plays a cop using futuristic tech to arrest people before they commit a crime. That kind of pre-crime policing might not be science fiction for much longer. In fact, it's already being quietly tested in parts of the U.S. It's not quite precognition, but a highly secretive AI tool called Overwatch. It's now being used by law enforcement. The system claims it can detect and disrupt criminal activity across many verticals, including border security, school safety, and human trafficking. What makes Overwatch unique isn't just about how it analyzes data, but how it inserts itself into conversations. Overwatch uses AI to create fake, hyper-realistic virtual undercover agents, digital personas that infiltrate social media, texting platforms, and even encrypted apps like Signal. These bots pose as college protesters, activists, or even teenagers and interact directly with suspected criminals. The goal? Build relationships with targets, gather intelligence, and help real officers make arrests. Examples from internal company presentations obtained by 404 Media include a 36-year-old divorced woman interested in activism, a 14-year-old boy designed to bait child traffickers, and a 25-year-old honeypot persona, a woman of Yemeni descent from Dearborn, Michigan, who even speaks a specific regional dialect of Arabic. The tool was developed by a private New York-based company called Massive Blue, and police departments are already deploying these deep cover virtual agents in live operations. Pinal County, Arizona officials reportedly paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to run 50 Overwatch personas as part of its ongoing investigations. The county is paying for the contract with an anti-human trafficking grant from the Arizona Department of Public Safety. However, in Arizona's Yuma County, a 2023 $10,000 contract with Massive Blue was not renewed. According to a county spokesman, quote, "The tech did not meet department needs." So far, the results are unclear. There are no confirmed arrests linked to Overwatch, and critics say there's little transparency about how the system works or if it works at all. Some of the targets include vaguely defined protesters, not just suspected criminals. And that's raising serious concerns about surveillance overreach, civil liberties, and potential threats to First Amendment rights.
Today I come here with a simple message. Our administration seeks trade partners on the basis of fairness and of shared national interests. We want to build relationships with our foreign partners who respect their workers, who don't suppress their wages to boost exports, but respect the value of their labor. And finally, we want to partner with people and countries who recognize the historic nature of the moment we're in, of the need to come together and build something truly new, a system of global trade that is balanced, one that is open, and one that is stable and fair. Critics have attacked my president, President Trump, for starting a trade war in an effort to bring back the jobs of the past, but nothing could be further from the truth. He seeks to rebalance global trade so that America, with friends like India, can build a future worth having for all of our people together. And we are especially excited to formally announce that America and India have officially finalized the terms of reference for the trade negotiation. I think this is a vital step. Thank you. I believe this is a vital step toward realizing President Trump's and Prime Minister Modi's vision because it sets a roadmap toward a final deal between our nations. I believe that if India and the United States work together successfully, we are going to see a 21st century that is prosperous and peaceful. But I also believe that if we fail to work together successfully, the 21st century could be a very dark time for all of humanity. Now, critics have attacked my president, President Trump, for starting a trade war in an effort to bring back the jobs of the past, but nothing could be further from the truth. He seeks to rebalance global trade so that America, with friends like India, can build a future worth having for all of our people together. And when President Trump and Prime Minister Modi announced in February that our countries aim to more than double our bilateral trade to $500 billion by the end of the decade, I know that both of them meant it. And I'm encouraged by everything our nations are doing to get us there.
The paramilitary Rapid Support Forces have launched an offensive on El Fasher, the capital of North Darfur province in Sudan, on Sunday. According to an activist group, the attack has killed at least 30 people, and more shelling on residential buildings and open markets took place on Monday. The Resistance Committee's activist group, which tracks the war in Sudan, also said that dozens of people had been wounded in the offensive. The Darfur region is home to several thousand refugees from other areas in Sudan, where fighting between the RSF and government forces has raged for the past 2 years. In recent months, the RSF has however suffered setbacks on the battlefield and notably lost control over the capital Khartoum. For the past year, the group has been attempting to seize El Fasher in a bid to tighten its control over the Darfur region and make up for its loss of territory elsewhere in the country.
China is once again ramping up military pressure on Taiwan. In a statement by the Taiwanese ministry, about 11 Chinese military aircraft and 10 ships were detected in the waters surrounding Taiwan over the past 24 hours. Now, Taiwan said that 9 Chinese warplanes deliberately crossed the median line of the Taiwan Strait that prompted the countermeasures from the Taiwanese side. In fact, reports suggest that April has in fact witnessed some unprecedented activity by the Chinese PLA. Taiwan is said to have tracked about 375 Chinese military aircraft and 190 naval vessels around its territory. Now, since September 2020, China has systematically increased the provocations in the Taiwan Strait. Military experts have described these operations as a deliberate pressure tactic that remains below the threshold of a full-fledged war. It said that China's strategy appears designed to achieve military objectives without triggering a direct armed conflict. And the TVBS correspondent Dimitri Bruce has sent us this report from Taipei. President.
China has intensified military pressure with 11 aircraft and 6 naval vessels encircling Taiwan over the past 24 hours. Earlier today, Taiwan's defense ministry released alarming new data showing escalating tensions. 9 Chinese warplanes crossed the medium line of the Taiwan Strait yesterday, prompting the military to respond with aircraft, naval ships and coastal missile systems as countermeasures. April has seen unprecedented activity, with Taiwan tracking 375 Chinese military aircraft and 190 naval vessels around its territory. This pattern clearly demonstrates Beijing's calculated strategy of sustained pressure. Military experts describe these operations as gray zone tactics, deliberate pressure that remains below the threshold of war. Since September 2020, China has systematically increased these provocations, creating a persistent state of tensions in the region. Beijing's strategy appears designed to achieve military objectives without triggering direct armed conflict. Meanwhile, Taiwan officials maintain heightened vigilance as these incursions have established a concerning new normal in the Taiwan Strait.
Well, we now turn our attention to West Asia. According to Israeli media, the Israeli Air Force has conducted drills, rehearsing for another round of Iranian missile attacks on Israeli air bases. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has ordered a war rehearsal with Iran. Now, last year, Israeli Air Force bases were targeted along with other military infrastructure by Tehran during 2 rounds of airstrikes. In April last year, Iran launched over 300 missiles and drones against Israel. And later, in October, Iran launched over 200 ballistic missiles towards Israel. The airstrikes in October 2024 had reportedly targeted the Nevatim Air Base in southern Israel and also the Tel Nof base in central Israel, while the one in April last year had targeted the Nevatim and Ramon air bases, both located in southern Israel. But the question remains. The question now is, why is Israel carrying out these drills right now? As per Israeli media reports, the Air Force drills are being carried out to prepare Israeli troops for potential strikes from Iran in case the nuclear talks, the nuclear program talks between US and Iran collapses. And it seems Israel is getting extra military support as well. According to open source intelligence monitors, at least 8 US Air Force C-17A Globemaster III transport aircraft were tracked flying from Ramstein Air Base in Germany to Israel's Nevatim Air Base on Sunday. Adding that over the past 10 days, at least 25 C-17 flights have reportedly landed in Israel, transporting air defense systems, among other ammunition. Now, all this comes just a week after the New York Times reported that Israel had prepared to strike Iranian nuclear sites next month. But the US President Donald Trump opted to pivot towards diplomacy with Tehran rather than aggression with the help of Israel, further putting an end to Netanyahu's plans. Well, according to reports, Netanyahu will convene a security cabinet meeting this evening with Iran's nuclear program and the US-Iran talks being the major focus points on the agenda. And Israel once again asserted that Iran, and I'm quoting, cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Iran cannot have nuclear weapon, and this is what's in front of us. We understand it's not just a threat to Israel, but to the entire world.
The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is not only facing pressure globally, but also domestically. In Tel Aviv, thousands of Israelis demonstrated against Bibi and his government, calling for his resignation and also a hostage deal with Hamas. The situation became so intense that few demonstrators were forcibly removed by the Israeli police, while mounted police were seen trying to disperse the crowd. The latest round of demonstrations comes just days after dozens of Israeli demonstrators clashed with local police in the central Israeli town of Mazur, where Netanyahu was scheduled to visit. As Bibi faces mounting pressure to prepare for both domestic and global affairs, all eyes are focused on the third round of talks between Iran and the US, the outcome of which could decide the road ahead for West Asia. Well, the United States of America and Philippines are strengthening their combat readiness. Both militaries have launched their most aggressive joint war drills, preparing for the possibility of direct conflict with China, especially around flashpoints like Taiwan and the disputed South China Sea. The annual Balikatan military exercise has entered uncharted regions this year. They now include full-scale battle simulations designed to test whether American and Filipino forces can operate side by side in an actual war zone, with the main aim of defending critical islands and maritime choke points from a potential Chinese assault. Well, more than 17,000 troops from both the countries are now participating in these war games. Troops will fire live rounds, intercept simulated missile threats, and also conduct island defense operations in areas that are strategically important to both the countries and fiercely contested by Beijing. Well, Washington's access to the Philippines is expanding now. Manila has now opened 4 additional military bases to U.S. forces, bringing the total to 9, which will and can perhaps directly contain Chinese military expansion around the Philippines. This year's war drills also include a 10-day island defense mission involving the Batanes Island chain, the Philippines' northernmost region, which borders Taiwan. U.S. Marine forces are also deploying anti-ship mobile missile launchers right into the Luzon Strait, marking the first time that they have put this kind of firepower in such close proximity to Chinese forces. The strait is a narrow stretch of sea that separates the Philippines from Taiwan. The two countries will also carry out coastal defense exercises on Palawan, the Philippine island that faces the South China Sea. In Balabac, a small islet now hosting a U.S.-backed base, the two countries will conduct a 5-day security operations. Well, Balabac is located closely to the Second Thomas Shoal and Sabina Shoal, sites where China and the Philippines have clashed repeatedly in the past. Palawan will also see its beaches transformed into mock battlefields. U.S. and Filipino troops will simulate repelling enemy landings in a live fire drill, the kind of scenario that would play out if China ever attempted to seize Philippines by force. The Chief of Staff of the Philippine Armed Forces said that these exercises between U.S. and the Philippines will encompass multiple warfare capabilities, while a U.S. Marine Corps commander highlighted the cutting-edge systems being tested in the drills.
And VK-25 is set to introduce new capabilities that have been developed over the course of many, many years and spoken of already, frankly, here in the media. Things like the Navy Marine Expeditionary Ship Interdiction System. Things like the Marine Air Defense Integrated System, MADIS, and the Army's medium-range capability, the Typhoon missile.
The spokesperson for China's foreign ministry accused the Philippines of undermining regional stability by aligning with foreign militaries and bringing in advanced weapons.
पूछताछ वो बढ़िया रहेगा सामने जाएगा आपने बोला हमने पहले सुना ये वहां से चलेगा ना तो पीछे पीछे चलेगा
Haiti is teetering on the brink of collapse. Gang violence has surged to unprecedented levels, paralyzing the country's capital, Port-au-Prince. The United Nations top envoy for Haiti, Maria Isabel Salvador, delivered a dire warning on Monday. She addressed the UN Security Council, describing the violence as deliberate and coordinated. According to UN figures, February and March saw over 1,000 people killed. Near 400 others were injured during this period, and more than 60,000 people have been newly displaced. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres echoed similar concerns in a confidential report. He stressed that immediate international support was required to prevent disaster. Cholera outbreaks have added to the humanitarian crisis. At least 39 health facilities and over 900 schools have shut down. And conditions in displacement sites also remain dire, with critical shortages of shelter and sanitation. With the UN warning of a looming point of no return, the necessity of urgent global assistance is more important than anything for the Haitians. Or else, the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere could slip into total chaos.
Now we turn to Europe, a continent on edge where nations are on an arming spree. The latest is from the UK and Poland. Britain wants more missiles and explosives, and Poland wants nuclear weapons from France. Clearly, Ukraine is no longer the priority. Europe is busy arming itself. Let's start with the United Kingdom. London made an announcement yesterday. They will ramp up weapons production. They're calling it a war-footing production model. And they want to achieve two goals: more manufacturing and bigger stockpiles. The UK wants to produce two things: RDX explosives and propellants. These are used in artillery, shells and missiles. Britain currently imports the RDX and the propellants. They get them from France and the US, but now they want to make it at home. So the UK wants to build its war reserves. What will it cost them? Friendship with France and the US. Here's why. For the UK, this is about self-reliance. They are preparing for worst-case scenarios, like Donald Trump. The US president has sent shockwaves through NATO. His threats to exit the group have left Europe worried. So if the US pulls back, the UK does not want to be caught off guard. And what about France? How will they feel about the UK's decision? France sees the UK as a dependable NATO ally. They often stand together in global matters. Even on the war in Ukraine, France and the UK have jointly made weapons for decades. Now the UK wants to part ways. Naturally, France will not be happy. And that's the UK's defense plan. It is aiming for self-reliance. Now let me tell you about Poland, a country that borders Russia. It's a frontline NATO state. Poland wants French nuclear weapons on its soil. The request came from Poland's president. He said French nukes will protect them from Russia. So Poland is openly courting France for nuclear warheads. To understand why, let's look at a map. Poland is dealing with a hostile neighborhood, as you can see. They border Ukraine, Belarus, and the Russian territory of Kaliningrad. And Russia has placed its nukes in Belarus and Kaliningrad. So 2 of the 3 regions bordering Poland have nuclear warheads. Now Warsaw wants some too. Last month they requested the US. This time it is France. What does that show? Cracks in NATO. Just think about it. After asking the US for nukes, Poland has turned to France. The message is that Washington cannot be trusted, and Europe should have a finger on the trigger. Hence the request for French nukes. But will Paris deliver? Only 3 NATO members have nukes: the US, the UK and France. Fun fact, their combined nuclear stockpile is less than Russia's. Nuke for nuke, Russia wins. So the question really is France willing to take the risk? Apparently, yes. French President Emmanuel Macron has floated the idea. He wants to create a European nuclear umbrella. He wants to deploy French nukes across Europe, exactly how American nuclear warheads are kept in Germany and Italy. But this is easier said than done. Building logistics to deal with such weapons takes time, at least half a decade as per experts. Not to mention, Russia would be furious. Moscow would see this as a direct threat. French nukes at Russia's doorstep will be seen as provocation. So let's be clear, this is an escalation. Europe is militarizing like never before. More weapons, bigger defense budgets, and now calls for a shared nuclear arsenal. Europe is preparing for a future where it does not have to rely on the US. The UK's push for weapons and Poland's quest for French nukes scream one thing: anxiety. But do more weapons, particularly nuclear ones, guarantee peace? They do not. So the question to ask is this: is Europe preparing for peace or pushing for war?